You're watching Hidden Coast Surf Online, private surf coaching in Nosara, Costa Rica. For more details, please visit hiddencoastsurf.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hidden Coast Online. I'm Ollie Davis and today we're going to be talking about trimming down the line. So in the last video we talked about angling the takeoff, okay? So as opposed to just paddling into our unbroken wave, getting to the feet and dropping down into the white water, we start to think about looking for a directional component in the wave so that we can angle our takeoff. You imagine I jump into this picture for a second. I'm paddling into my wave, and for illustration purposes, this one is a left-hander. Okay, so it's going to peel in this direction, a left-hander from my point of view as the surfer. So I'm going to paddle into this wave, and in the last video we talked about angling the takeoff so we could get the board to point down the line, and we can move in the direction of the peeling white water that's going to move across like a curtain in this direction. So what we're going to imagine is that now we've angled the takeoff and the board is pointing down the line and we're up and riding. And today, and in today's video, what we're going to talk about is now how do we deal with this situation now so that we can get the most out of the wave. Okay, so the idea now is that you are on this peeling wave and it's going down the line to the left. And so we as surfers now want to ride this really fun part of the wave for as long as possible until the wave closes out, breaks, dies, whatever. So it's a little sort of like management technique, and it's called trimming down the line or trim management, whatever you want to call it. So that basically we can go all the way down the line and not cut the wave short by coming off the back or going down too low. So now that you've angled your takeoff and you're up and riding and hopefully sort of pointing the board down the line, we're going to talk about like what we would like to do with the wave now. What is the actual aim, the overall aim of what we want to do with the surfboard on the wave? And so the main thing here is if you're new to this and you're just now starting to think about getting the board to go down the line, we're going to talk about basically what we want to do is keep the board in this position here, okay? What I mean by that is if we get too far ahead and we sort of start putting distance between us and the white water, we end up out on what we call the shoulder here, okay? And if I'm cruising along on my surfboard on the shoulder, the wave becomes less and less and less steep as you go in this direction, and it'll start to feel a little slack under your feet, okay? And it won't feel like it's pushing you along particularly well anymore. So your speed's going to slow, or your speed's going to reduce, and the wave won't feel quite so engaging anymore. Now the other thing is that we can drop down too low, and then what happens here is that the wave ends up sort of advancing ahead of us and we get stuck down in the white water here. So in either situation, there's a general risk that you're going to lose the wave and come out of this sweet spot. So in this situation, you probably come off the back, and this situation here, you're going to get swallowed by the white water. So this is the rule of surfing for anyone at any level when they're going down the line, whether you're a professional surfer or just starting this for the first time. Ideally, you want to stay in this spot here, okay? Or if you leave this area, you want to return back to this area. This is the part of the wave here you're going to feel like you're engaged. It's nice and steep, it's got power, it pushes you down the line very nice and powerfully. So think of it like this: you want to be as close to the white water as possible without being in the white water. Okay, so in this video, we're going to keep it relatively short and relatively simple. The reason why is because once you are up and riding and you're going down the line, if you're anything like I was when I first did that, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm doing what it is that surfing is in my mind. And so it's a little bit like that feeling when you learn to drive, where everything feels a little bit overwhelming, okay? Like all the controls of the car, all of the things, the situational factors you've got to deal with outside of the car. It's the same in this situation where you're going down the line and everything feels a little bit like overwhelming. It will happen, like feels like it's happening very quickly, okay? So what we're going to do in this video is keep this video relatively short and keep the content very, very simple. so that you can think of only one or two things while you're up and riding on the wave. So, a little bit of technical jargon or terminology for you. Let's imagine we've gone, this is the left-hander, okay, it's going to peel in this direction. So let's imagine we're up and riding, and we're doing that thing, we're going down the line, okay, we're going to just talk about now rails of the surfboard, okay, so this rail here, the one that's closest to the wave, is going to be called our inside rail, and this one, the one that's closest to the beach, is going to be called our outside rail. So essentially, we want to keep this video very simple by saying that the way you're going to control the board now is by pressing on the inside rail. And it's at this point here that I want to invite you to look back. You can see our videos are numbered on YouTube. So I want you to look back, if you haven't done so already, at our video number 2, which is called board controls or trimming and carving turns. And we're going to be talking in that video about trimming turns that we're going to be referring back to in this video here. So as the name would suggest, trimming turns and trimming down the line requires pressing the trimming buttons on the surfboard. So for those of you who have seen the video, just as a little reminder here, here's our surfboard, here's our little midpoint in our surfboard, this is the nose, so the board goes in this direction. We're going to be pressing our trim left button in this scenario, okay? Here's what happens. You're cruising down the line, the more you press on the trim left button, i.e. the more you lean into the wave, the more the board is going to go up towards the lip here, okay? And the less you lean on the trim left button, the more the board is going to drop down like that, okay? So there are some instances where you might find that you're too high up on the wave and there's a risk of coming all the way off the back. Or you might find that you're a little bit too low on the wave and therefore you need to lean a little harder on that inside rail to bring you back up. Essentially, think about it as like a management technique where you want to keep yourself, if I draw a line here across the face of the wave, you want to keep yourself just above the midline of the wave, okay? So if we're too low down, you start to lose steepness, you start to lose speed, and it's likely that the wave will advance past you and you'll be stuck in the white water. If we stay too high, what will happen is we'll probably outrun the wave and there's a danger of coming off the back. So we want to keep to the middle road, and we do that by pressing to a greater or lesser extent on our trim left button. For those of you who've seen video number 2, you'll know that you cannot press the trim right button in this situation. So if you want to go down lower on the wave, we cannot press the trim right button because we'll dig this rail in here and we'll fall off. So we can only control this situation, which is kind of nice because it keeps things very simple. But we can only control the situation by pressing to a greater or lesser extent on the trim left button. So that's it. We're going to keep this video very short and very simple. The next video, we're going to start talking about using the different buttons, i.e. the carved buttons back here, so that we can start to actually draw lines and start doing interesting things on the open face of the wave. This is where surfing starts to get really, really exciting, really interesting. So tune in for the next video, coming up in about a week or a week and a half's time. Meanwhile, please subscribe to Hidden Coast Surf for subsequent videos that are coming up in the coming months. Thank you very much.